Welcome back to That's What They All Say.
Conversations across generations. Since this is our fifth episode, we thought we'd do something a little bit different today. We're going to do a couple of top fives, top five books, top five movies, just to let you know a little bit of what we enjoy reading and what we enjoy watching as well. So, Hope, why don't you get us kicked off with your number five book?
Perfect. So my number five is kind of actually the whole series, but The Wingfeather Saga by Andrew Peterson. I read this when I was probably like 12 to 14. So it is like geared more towards younger readers. This book is a really great representation of how to face suffering, how to have hope in suffering, just how to overcome that and how to lean into family as you're doing that. What's your number five?
So my number five actually is The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. So another five themed book here, but I really like this because it goes into some of the work that I do with leadership and with teams and how you help a team get beyond some of these dysfunctions. Now, it's written in a way where it's a fictional account. So he's
Hmm.
sort of presenting this as this is what a fictional team would do. So my number five, The Five Dysfunctions of a Team.
Sweet. My number four is a dystopian novel, which I typically actually don't like dystopian novels, but this one I really enjoyed. It's called Unwind by Neil Shusterman. Liked it because it really kind of tackled the question of what do we consider life, and it kind of like turned it on its head in a really neat and unique way. So yeah.
Okay. Well, my number four is a book called Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. It's a very interesting premise because it actually reminds us of something that's very simple, which is the whole supply demand. If there's lots of demand and low supply, then the price goes up. And he kind of walks through a few businesses which actually really do a great job of that. Things like Apple, when they release their new iPhone, it's very hard to get one. You have to wait a
Hmm.
while. So it really builds
Interesting.
tension. And so he talks a lot about how to do that and then how to apply that to small businesses and other things. So it's something that's really helped change my thinking in terms of rather than really trying to service all the masses, but really focus in on who do you exclusively want to serve. Because of that, it can actually, help you charge a little bit more and to be a little bit more exclusive. And it allows you to determine who you want to work with rather than really saying, well, I have to work with everybody. It's kind of this idea of, what, you get to set some of the conditions. So I really like some of the concepts in there, but that's my number four is Oversubscribed by Daniel Priest.
Awesome. My number three is A Crown That Lasts by Demi Lee Tebow. So Demi Lee Tebow is the wife of Tim Tebow, but she also was the former Miss Universe of 2017, and she had a physical crown. But the premise of the book is that that wasn't her identity. Her actual true identity is in a crown that's given by God, and it really just dives deep into where our true identity should be. I really enjoyed it because I think at that point, and I still kind of struggle with it, just rooting my identity not in anything that I do or what I say, anything like that, but simply in like who God says I am.
All right. So my number three book is a book called Coach Builder by Donald Willard. A little bit of a theme here about, business, at least for the first three or
Hmm.
four of mine. It's about um, becoming a coach and using some of the tools and techniques that he has in there to again kind of change the way you think about things instead of necessarily thinking about just providing one-on-one coaching services, but how do you instead of that provide a package, because coaching can seem kind of difficult to understand sometimes. It's a little bit easier to say, well, I'm going to sit down with you for 5 sessions and we're going to help you unpack your strengths and what
Hmm.
you're really good at. And that'll help you understand how to be a better leader. That's something that, that's kind of a package that someone can kind of wrap their head around a little bit. They see that. And some of that comes from that book, Coach Builder. So I really enjoyed that. So that's my number three book. All right.
Sweet.
On to number two.
So my number two is Sons of Encouragement by Francine Rivers. I love Francine Rivers books in general, but especially Sons of Encouragement. I read that probably 4 to 5 years ago, but it's still stuck with me. It's about certain biblical characters such as Jonathan, and it just provides a whole new light onto who these characters are, what they might have struggled through. Like the Bible doesn't necessarily give the thoughts all of the time that they were thinking, but this book kind of like dives into that. So I really enjoyed that.
Awesome. All right. Well, my number two book is Rare Leadership in the Workplace. Four uncommon habits that improve your ability to be a leader in the workplace. And this is one that we use a lot in our coaching. We take people through some of the exercises in here.
Hmm.
And, spoiler alert, the world needs better leaders and more mature leaders. And so, one of the things that it walks you through is that there's some self diagnostic tools in there where you can kind of see where you're at, how
Hmm.
mature of a leader you are.
Okay, I want to take it
Um,
now.
Oftentimes, we score pretty low, myself included. We can have infant level behavior sometimes, which is where you don't realize it, but you may react the same way an infant reacts, which is like upset, angry, crying,
Huh.
kind of throwing a little fit. In many ways, we see the same thing with certain leaders that they'll sort of behave that way. They get bad feedback that something doesn't quite go right. They kind of just shut down. They sort of are kind of pouting. We use that book in order to help people sort of diagnose some of their leadership tendencies, where are they at, where can they work on. The book also walks you through steps and how to improve based off of kind of where you're at. So it's a really really good book. It's a nice small book, easy to
Yeah.
read. So
Easy to
I like
carry
easy to
around.
carry, right? Kind of fits in your pocket really well. So that's my number two, Rare Leadership. So all right, we're down to the
Number
number
one.
one. So Hope, what is your number one book that you recommend?
Okay, so I just read this maybe like a month or two ago, and it's called Your Story Has a Villain by Jonathan Pokluda. And my sister had given me this and was like, I don't know if I'll enjoy it. But I was like, I'll give it a shot. So I actually loved it and it was so insightful. It's basically about spiritual warfare and just dives deep into what it is, how you can combat it, what are the steps to doing that. And I mean, it kind of is like must read in order to be able to fight against the schemes of the devil. You have to know
Mm,
the attacks of the devil so that you can adequately defend yourself. And that's like it was so like eye opening to help me with that.
awesome. Well, my number one book, no surprise here, is the Bible. Any version, and this is actually, it's got my name on it. This is actually, believe it or not, this is my cadet Bible.
Oh my
It was
goodness.
given to me when I
It's
was a cadet at
old.
West Point back. It is pretty old.
It looks new
But it's
though.
in good condition because I think I put it in a box somewhere and I just use a different Bible. So I just recently found it. I like to read the Bible every day. That's the best way I feel like starting my day with a cup of coffee and the Bible in my hand. That's the best way I like to do that. And so number one recommendation is the Bible. Read some
What's
of it every day. So
okay.
okay, so those are our top five recommendations for each of us. So I hope you enjoyed that. Next, let's move on to our top
Movie.
five movie recommendations. So I'm going to go ahead and start this one out. So, number five, I'm going to go with Avengers Endgame. I really like the way that Avengers, the saga, kind of ended in Endgame. I think I read somewhere they had something like 72 named characters in a couple of the shots. And so that's pretty rare. And the secrecy with which they had to do everything, and I know they lied to certain actors to try to
Mm,
keep things a secret. Tom Holland apparently is notoriously not good at keeping a secret. So that's my number five. How about you?
so my number five is also kind of an action thriller movie. It's an oldie but a goodie, The Hunt for the Red October. So I really love this movie because the plot is excellent. It really keeps you on your toes. You're always, what's going to happen next? The actors portray their characters really well. Even though like it's an older one, the special effects and just like the cinematography I thought was really good for its time.
Awesome.
What's your number four?
All right. So number four is kind of a series of movies. I'm going to kind of bend the rules a little bit here. I'm going to say most of, not all of, the Rocky movies, specifically Rocky 3, 4, and then the final one, Rocky Balboa. Those are actually really good. Part of it is I like the character of Rocky. He's kind of a nobody, and he's
Hmm.
kind of given this shot, and ultimately he kind of keeps having to overcome more and more challenges. And I still remember watching Rocky 4 in the theaters. And it's at the height of the Cold War, so it's really Rocky versus not just the Russian box, like the whole Russian
The
country
Soviet
basically. And
Union,
so
yeah.
so it was fun to watch that. And so yeah, so that's my number four is Rocky. How about yours? How about your number four?
My number four is Captain America, the First Avenger. I love historical fiction, and so this was set in World War II, which is one of my favorite times in history to either read about or watch. I also loved it because it portrays evil and good so clearly, and I think a lot of movies kind of like blend what is good and what isn't good, and I just really appreciated how that movie said this is good and this is evil.
Awesome. Well, believe it or not, when we both submitted our top fives, we each had the same exact movie at number three. So why don't you tell us what the movie was, and then we can each give our reasons
Okay.
for why. So
The movie was Facing the Giants.
there you go.
And
All
what
right.
was your reason?
So for me, I really, this company, I mean, they're a Christian based company. It's the Kindred Brothers.
Hmm.
And this particular one, it's just, I think it's a really good story. It's loosely based on a true story
Right.
about a high school football team that there's kind of a bit of a revival there.
Hmm.
I don't know exactly if they're how successful they are, but there's just some really great scenes and some great lines of just what's going on, the faith that it takes to kind of go, and then just sort of see how everything evolves. So I just think it's a great movie. It's a very family friendly movie. So I've seen it lots of times. How about you? Why did you enjoy Facing the Giants?
The main reason is, like, I just loved all of the themes. There was so much on, like, the power of redemption and just how God can make something out of nothing. And when you're, like, in the depths and, like, you're about to lose everything, that's where you find the most God.
Mm,
It's not necessarily like God will take you out of it, which, like, he kind of did in the movie. But even if he doesn't, like, he's still there and, like, that's where they really, like, knew God the most. I just thought that was so powerful. I also love, talking about favorite lines, but there's this specific line that we all love to say. It happens when one of the assistant coaches is helping a player try to, like, throw better, and he's like, "Your throw can look like a dying duck, but the ball has got to go through the middle," and it's kind of like it applies to football. Like, it has to go through the middle, but it can, like, apply to more in general life. Like, it can look messy, it can look ugly, but, like, as long as, like, the intent is there and you're, like, going after the right things, that's kinda all
yeah, that's a great line.
yeah.
I will just say that he's actually talking about kicking the football,
Oh,
so the field goal, it's got to
yeah.
go through the uprights. So yeah, I know football.
Just it goes over my
So
head.
all right. So number two, Gladiator. This is the original one, not the recent one. I'll tell you in a second why I don't really care for
Mm,
the second one. The first one, Gladiator with Russell Crowe. The thing that I really liked about it was the main character that Russell Crowe plays is I feel like he is such a moral character. He is faces adversity, but he never changes who he is. He's very consistent. He's very humble. He's willing to serve, but he doesn't want to be in power. He doesn't really necessarily want to have authority. And in multiple times he's willing to. He tries to give it away. He tries not to be in charge. Now, sort of leads into why I don't like the second Gladiator, because there's a boy in the first movie. You don't really know what happened to his father, but he
hmm,
dies. There's a little tension. Is it Russell Crowe?
oh,
It wasn't. And Russell Crowe has had interviews about this where he says that no, that was not how it was originally written. In the second movie, they sort of rewrite the history that that son actually was Russell Crowe's character's son. However, that meant it was an illegitimate son, and it meant that he would have cheated on his wife, and that's just not the character
mm,
of the guy. Maximus Decimus Meridius is the name of the character that he plays. I feel like it really unwrote some of the moral code that Maximus had throughout the movie, because whether he's a slave or a gladiator or the general of the Roman legions, it doesn't matter. He's very much a leader, and he very much is a moral person, and he stands up for what is right. So how about your number 2?
my number 2 is Dunkirk. This is
Well,
another
that's a great movie. Yeah.
yes, it is. It's another history movie, which I love. But I thought it just really portrayed the brutality of war and how serious and, like, how heartbreaking it is. Um, and I just feel like we don't really often talk about that, and I think it should be. So, yeah, it's
All right. Well, my number one movie, and I know it's no shock to any of my
Mm,
family. It's Star Wars. It is the original Star Wars.
the
Still the
OG.
best. The OG, still the best. And I'm going to say something that may be controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're going to watch the series, you got to watch it in the release order. You got to go 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. You can sort of throw Rogue One in there if you want in between there, and then 7, 8, 9 afterwards. But the OG original one, it was groundbreaking. I mean, for years, it was sort of the standard for special effects and sci-fi, and it's really held up over the test of time. If you go back and watch it now, it doesn't look like some movies which are super outdated. I mean, some of the
Good.
special effects still look pretty good today.
Yeah.
So I'm going number one, Star Wars, the original. All right, Hope. How about you? The number one.
So my number 1, I'm also like Dad, how you bent number 4. I'm bending number 1. Um, my number 1 is I Can Only Imagine. Both the first movie and the second movie. The movies are about the band Mercy Me and kind of the stories behind 2 of their songs. First, I Can Only Imagine, and then secondly, the song Even If. And I actually read the or watched the second movie before the first one, but I loved both of them. They are such great, powerful stories of redemption, forgiveness, suffering, and like how do you wrestle with knowing that God is good, but you're still in the suffering. And yeah, it was so impactful both times I watched it. Just like spoke so much to me.
Wow. All right. Well, there you have it. There are 10 books and 10 movies that Hope and I both recommend that you either read or watch.
Mm.
And so let us know if you agree or disagree what your favorite movies or favorite books are to read, things that you think we should read or watch as well. And we'll hope to see you next time.